Folks, welcome back to the Skills of the Future series, and I'd like to begin this one with a personal story. In 2007, I moved back from the UK to Jalandhar. For those of you who are not familiar, it's a tier 2 city in Punjab, India. I landed back after leaving my job, after leaving behind the career in hospitality that I had built over the last 8 years, working in 5 different countries. I gave all of that up to build an international speaking career from right here in Jalandhar. The traditional marketing model at that time for speakers, and not many full-time speakers were around in India back at that point of time. Many people were doing it as a side hobby. But the traditional business model was hire an experienced and expensive business development manager, send them to knock on the door of HR and learning and development managers of large companies, which were typically, the head offices were located in the metro cities, Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, etc. Print glossy brochures and send them in the mail, advertise in newspapers and magazines, very expensive, and post physical mailers. All of these things were very slow, very expensive, and very, very metro-driven. And I wasn't living in a metro. I was sitting here in Jalandhar, and I knew that at that point of time, that if I follow the existing playbook, I'll be finished even before I start. I wouldn't stand a chance. So I took a creative detour. You see, your creativity flourishes when your back is against the wall. I built a website when very few speakers in India had one. I started uploading videos of my talks onto YouTube. I learned personally how to start using search engine optimization, and then I partnered with a company who were very good at optimizing my website for search engines. I started using social media, left, right, and center, short clips, audios, posts, pictures, etc. And we started sending out digital newsletters and PDFs instead of printed brochures. Very cheap, cost effective. You can send it via email. You don't have to visit the office personally. All of this whole 100% digital video strategy was very new. It was untested, but my back was against the wall and I had few options, so we went for this. The goal, the expectation at that point of time was very simple. Let's at least be visible across India, outside the geographical limitations of Jalandhar. But what happened surprised us. Those same creative experiments with the search engine optimization, the website, etc., opened doors to international events. I had my first speaking engagements in Bahrain, and then all of the Middle East, and then Southeast Asia, Europe. I even traveled to the United States to give a few talks, all from a small office in Punjab. And that's the power of creativity, my friends, and that's what this video is about. Creativity is not just art on a canvas, not just music and design. Of course, all of that is a creative pursuit, but creativity is also finding new ways to solve new problems, especially when everyone around you is following the old script. It's the courage to break away from that and do something different. So when I talk about creativity in this video, I'm not quoting theory from a textbook. I'm sharing what I've lived and learned. And there's a reason why the World Economic Forum keeps listing creative thinking, creativity, as one of the top skills of the future. Do you know why? Because I know we are in an era of AI, where AI can also be very creative, generate images, generate text and sound and whatnot, and videos on Sora and so many other things. But AI can only remix what already exists. Of course, it can surprise us with the remix, but it doesn't dream original dreams. It's dependent on a prompt. All of that until the chips get consciousness or artificial general intelligence. Once they come alive, and we don't have a roadmap for that science fiction chapter yet. But until then, AI's magic is rooted in the archive. Humans, we're different. We're not just connected to the archive, to the past. We are also a spark of what's next. Creative imagination that is just fresh and brand new and courageous. As Professor Richard Florida puts it beautifully, he wrote, human creativity is the ultimate economic resource. Human creativity is the ultimate economic resource. So before we get into the tips, the 5 tips, plus 1 bonus if you stay all the way till the end, I want to bust a very dangerous myth surrounding creativity. A mindset block which prevents you from being creative, which is this: the assumption that some people are creative, the rest are not. Or creativity is something you were born with. Or even worse, I hear this often, I am not the creative types. I don't buy this at all. Every child is creative. You don't believe me? Go ask your parents. In your own way, you were very creative. All of us were very good at coming up with excuses or convincing our parents if we wanted something. You would leave us alone with an empty room and a cardboard box, and we'll create spaceships and secret bases and race cars and do so much more. All of us were like that. So type in the comments, please. I was born to create, born to disrupt, and born to improve. Born to create, born to disrupt, and born to improve. So the question is, what happened afterwards? If we're all creative and we were born creative, why watch this video? Where did our creativity disappear? What happened? School happened. You entered our traditional education system, which sadly is designed for coloring within the lines. It is designed for promoting conformity, not creativity. I sometimes do this simple exercise in my sessions. I say to folks, take out a blank sheet of paper. You have 30 seconds, draw something, anything, real quick, 30 seconds. All right, everybody get started. 30 seconds, time's up. Hold up your sheets now. Let's see what it is. And in hall after hall, auditorium after auditorium, I see the same masterpiece that people draw in 30 seconds, which is, you might be familiar with this one too. Type in a yes if you would do the same. 2 mountains, 1 hut, a river flowing, a sun in the corner with few rays coming out, maybe even a few birds if you have time. You know that picture. Most of us were trained and conditioned to draw exactly the same picture in school. And in those 30 seconds, in the 30 seconds that I give to my audience, folks could draw anything. You could draw your best friend, you could draw a flying auto rickshaw, a purple cow with wings, I don't know. But under pressure, your brain says, don't risk it. Do what you were taught in school, draw the hut. That, my friends, is not creativity, that's conditioning. So let's agree before we begin this video that you are creative, that you always have been creative, you were born creative, you've just been trained by the system to play it safe. Stop playing it safe. So this video is not about teaching you creativity, it's about switching it back on. And the tips that I'm going to share with you in this video are not borrowed from any textbook. They are battle tested from my own life journey, from my own creative journey as a solopreneur, as an entrepreneur sitting here in Jalandhar and serving organizations across the world. And also I draw upon the journeys of all the organizations that I've partnered with over the last 20 years. And it is my belief, if you will be a good student and watch this video all the way till the end, these tips will help you in imagining new possibilities, in designing better solutions for your customers, and in making sense of a messy, changing world. So without much further ado, let's dive in. All right, my friends, tip number 1 is divergent thinking, also known as flooding the field with new ideas. There's this wonderful line I love from Linus Pauling, who said, Linus Pauling was Nobel Prize-winning chemist, by the way, who said the best way to have a good idea is to have a lot of ideas. And that's divergent thinking in one sentence, my friends, generating a lot of new ideas. And ultimately, in the process of doing that, something exceptional will come up. The key is to not police your brain too early. Let it run free first, and something good will emerge. In one of my workshops, what I do is I hand people an empty plastic bottle. This one is big, but I usually give them a small one, and I say, okay, you have 60 seconds. Give me 10 uses for this bottle, right? And storing water does not count. When I give it to little kids, they go crazy. Rocket ship, rain gauge, musical shaker, plant protector, cat toy. With adults, they usually struggle, but they come up with some interesting stuff. It's not that kids are smarter, it's that their ideas don't get blocked by what will people think. Is this practical? Is this sane? Will other folks laugh at me or not? So they just come up with a lot of ideas. Our job is to get some of that playfulness back into our work routines and how we think. Till date, when I sit down to design a new keynote for a client, I take a blank sheet of paper and I write in the middle of that page, this is a core message I want this audience to remember. Now, I've been doing this for 20 years now, and things can become stagnant at some stage. What I do is I write the core message in the middle, then I force myself to write 10 creative new ways to deliver that message. 10 different openings, 10 different closings, 10 new quotes I can use in the keynote, 10 new stories or 10 new titles, 10 new metaphors, 10 new examples. Out of those 10, maybe 2 or 3 will be really good. The rest would be average, and you never know. And that's the whole point, and that's okay. The point is not to protect every idea. The point is not to get attached to every idea. The point is to generate enough ideas so that the good ones will have a chance to shine and appear. My friends, ideation is not a sequential process. You don't make predictable incremental improvements. Just like the light bulb was not made out of incremental improvement of the candle, right? It's not 5% improvement. Same way with your ideas. You could go from downright ridiculous to this idea could change the world. So that's what I'm asking you to do. Let it flow, this whole process of idea generation. And the interesting part is you never know in what interesting, divergent ways your ideas will be used. You could come up with an idea for improvement in one process, and it could change the industry in another domain altogether different. Let me give you an example. In 1902, a young engineer called Willis Carrier was hired by a Brooklyn printing company which had a very specific problem. And their problem was humidity. The moist air was making the paper expand and shrink, and the ink was misaligning due to this humid environment, and print quality was horrible. Carrier was asked to control humidity for printing in that particular factory. He built a system to dry the air and stabilize the paper. And in doing so, he created the first modern air conditioner. Only later they had this aha moment that if this works for reducing humidity in factories, what about offices and homes and cinemas and airplanes? And then air conditioning became mainstream everywhere. Same technology, brand new markets. So ask yourself, how can I use divergent thinking in my business, in my studies, or whatever I'm doing? If you're an entrepreneur, brainstorm right now. Pause and brainstorm 10 creative ways to reach your customer. Cost-effective, efficient ways. Could it be Instagram ads, partnerships, collaborations, referrals, reels, podcasts, live demos, webinars? I don't know. Don't stop at the first logical answer. Flood the field with so many ideas and then narrow down 2 or 3. If you're a professional in a job, list 10 ways to improve the process at your work. Even if some ideas sound crazy, you might not use all 10, but idea number 7 on your list could be gold, and it could change the way you work. If you're a student, you're stuck in the exam hall and you can't remember the exact textbook answer. Use divergent thinking. What do I already know that's related to this? Can I build a logical, structured answer on the spot, even if I've forgotten what I remember from the textbook, using divergent thinking in the exam hall? If you're designing a TED Talk or a presentation or a speech, write your core message and force yourself to generate 10 different openings. A question, a story, a joke, a statistic, a silent pause, a prop. Then choose 2 or 3. You can apply this model to expanding your products and services. If you're very good behind the camera, you could start branding solutions for local businesses. You could start public relations. You could start help other people launch their podcast studios, so much more. That's how you expand your products and services. Find new uses for what you already offer. So for my keynotes and my motivational talks, in the beginning, we offered them only to corporations, but now we offer them also to schools and colleges, and that's so much fun working with teachers and principals and students, right? Find new uses, new markets for what you already offer. And the key is to generate many ideas. Don't fall in love with any particular idea just because you like it. Kill the ones that don't work and move forward with the few that shine. You see, the pros at creative thinking are not the people who never have bad ideas. They are the ones who don't get attached to their ideas. So let the brainstorm happen first, and you can do the culling second, and you'll be left with something that can truly transform what you do today. So that, my friends, is tip number 1, divergent thinking. All right, my friends, tip number 2 is asking better questions, right? Helping your curiosity break the conditioning that the education system or the world we grew up in has given us. You see, the biggest enemy of our creativity is not the boss, not the budget, not the company policy. It's probably that little voice in your head that says, that won't work, or that's not how we do it, or that's impossible, nobody's ever done it before. Creativity, new ideas. You could go back to my example that I shared with you right in the beginning, launching a business, international speaking and thought leadership business from a tier 2 city, having given up your previous career, starting afresh without any formal business education, etc. This sort of creative thinking needs courage. And one of the easiest ways to build that courage is to start asking better questions, right? 2 questions that changed my life before I embarked on this journey was, what am I really good at, and how can I convert that into a business, into a profession, right? And I was like, wow, it really changed my whole perspective around how I looked at how careers are built. Careers are not built about where the better money is. A career should be built on what your core strengths are. So that questioning process changed everything. Curiosity and questioning will help you overcome all sort of fears, my friends. And one sincere, bold question can challenge years of conditioning. You've probably heard the fish baking story. We shared that. I narrated that story in detail, but I'll share it with you briefly. A little girl asked some mother, Mom, whenever you cut fish, why do you always cut the head and the tail before baking it? And Mom says, I don't know, because your grandmother, she used to do it. I just followed her recipe. So the girl goes up to Grandma and asks Grandma, why do you cook fish this way? Why do you chop off the head and the tail? Grandma says, because my grandmother used to do it. And finally they ask great-grandmother, and she laughs. So, oh, Dad, when we moved countries, I only had a small pan and the fish wouldn't fit. So I just cut off the head and the tail. And just like that, a pan problem became a family culinary tradition. And that's what happens, my friends, when we stop questioning, when we keep repeating patterns long after the reason or the logic disappears. So it is our duty to ask in these changing times, why? Why not? What if? Why not us? Why not now? Why not me? And in these sort of questions, you don't have to always ask someone else. In fact, you'll be very irritating if you're always asking these questions to other people. But do this questioning process internally in your head. Why? Why not? What if I tried this? Why not me? Why not now? These questions open doors to new creative ideas. However, in the list of questions, there's one that you should avoid in the beginning. It's a very important question, but you should avoid this question in the beginning, and this question is how. The how kills many ideas. How will we do this? How will we afford it? How will others react? How will it work out? How is important, but later. You will figure it out later. If you bring in the how too early in the brainstorming process, your brain is going into survival mode. It'll go into deficit thinking, not abundance thinking. Creativity doesn't live in that mode. So for a while, ignore the how. Stay with the why and the why not and the what if. Let the idea breathe before you start dissecting it. And that's very important so that it can flourish in the process. I shared with you one of my favorite real-world stories, and that's about the city of Chicago. Mid-1800s, Chicago had a disaster brewing. The city was almost flat and sewage had no way to go. Flooding and disease were rampant, and the common sense belief, the prevailing belief at that point of time was, you can't change the height of an entire city. But a group of engineers asked a better question, and that question was, why not? And when you ask a better question, you are putting yourself in a position of finding answers that no one's ever thought of before. And this group of engineers did just that. Instead of digging deeper, they decided to raise the city. Yeah, you heard that right. Raise the city, literally lifting entire buildings, sidewalks, hotels by 4 to 5 feet using thousands of jack screws in coordination at the same time. People were living and working in those buildings while they were being raised. And once the city was higher, they laid a sewer lines underneath, saving Chicago from a public health nightmare and giving us all an inspirational example of how you can change the status quo, challenge the status quo by asking bold questions. All of this happened because somebody refused to accept that's just how Chicago is. So let's reflect back in our own lives. Pick one habit or one process in your life and ask, why do I do it this way? Who said this is the only way? Are there written or unwritten rules that prevent me from exploring other options? And why are there? Why are those rules there? Based on what? The reasons for which these rules were constructed, are those reasons even around? Or have they disappeared? If they've disappeared, maybe it's time to review the rules also. What would happen if I try another way? This is creative thinking. It's dangerous territory, right? All of this stuff that I'm telling you. And I highly recommend you read this book. It's by Osho. Insights for a New Way of Living, Courage, the Joy of Living Dangerously. creativity is dangerous because you're not conforming, you're not coloring within the lines. Yeah, you're challenging the status quo. And this book will hold a lot of insights. It's Courage, The Joy of Living Dangerously by Osho. All right, my friends, moving on to tip number 3 is be a sponge. Be a sponge and keep absorbing everything, especially what you learn from diverse environments. Creativity, my friends, is not born from nothing. It's born out of connections, human connections, idea connections, information connections, etc. You take one idea from here, you take one idea from there, you keep absorbing them, you mix them, you create your own version, and suddenly it looks like original genius. In reality, you were just a good sponge. And therefore, if you hang out with the dull, thou shalt absorb the dullness. If you hang out with the weird, thou shalt absorb their interesting weird parts. That's a weird reminder that creativity thrives on contrast. If you spend time with people who think like you, work like you, live like you, you'll get efficiency, but not creativity. But if you sit with an entrepreneur, a sound engineer, social worker, coder, a school teacher, a street vendor, startup founder, suddenly you'll notice different rhythms, different problem-solving styles, different metaphors, different way of looking and working. And you'll be absorbing a whole new creative grammar. Travel does this too. Travel also pushes the boundaries of your creative thinking. Folks visit India, some call it chaos. How can traffic even move like this on the roads? Some will look at it and say, oh, this is entrepreneurship and energy in motion. Let me share a story from India that I absolutely love about creative thinking and about being a sponge and absorbing information. In the 1970s, Dr. Govindappa Venkataswamy, or Dr. V as he's fondly called, founded the Aravind Eye Hospital in Madurai. He had one mission: eliminate needless blindness in the world through cataract surgeries. Now, during a trip abroad, Dr. V visited McDonald's, and this is early 1970s, and watched in fascination the same burger, same taste, served quickly at scale at thousands of McDonald's outlets across the United States. And he wondered, if McDonald's can sell billions of burgers, why can't we perform millions of sight-restoring cataract surgeries? He took that inspiration back to Madurai, redesigned an Aravind, and created a high-volume, low-cost assembly line model for cataract surgeries, where paying patients would subsidize those who could not pay. Today, Aravind performs hundreds of thousands of surgeries every year, many of them free or heavily subsidized, with outcomes that match the best in the world. And that's creativity in action, my friends. Absorbing an idea from fast food and using it to transform eye care. And you can practice this too. Invite someone from a totally different field for coffee. Have a conversation, ask questions. Visit places outside your bubble, your factory floor, a farm, a bazaar, a startup co-working space, a local school, college, I don't know. Join a meetup outside your expertise. Spend 1 hour just listening unconditionally. If you're a student, don't just study your syllabus. Watch documentaries, listen to podcasts, read outside your subject, and you will absorb all that in. And in very creative ways, you can use all of that in ways that you wouldn't have imagined. If you're a working professional, look at other industries. How do hospitals manage emergencies? How does a startup run experiments? Expose yourself to more ideas than you need today. I repeat that. Expose yourselves to more ideas than you need today, because tomorrow's creative breakthrough will come from a connection that your brain quietly makes between something you saw here and something you saw there, and you will have a brilliant aha moment when you least expected it. And that's creativity in action. And that was tip number 3. Be a sponge and absorb and observe from what's happening in the world around you, especially in places outside your usual workplace. Tip number 4, my friends, is to embrace ambiguity, which is learning to stand in the fog without panicking. Here's something all creative people have in common. They're okay standing in the fog, in the mist, in the uncertainty. They can hold a jigsaw puzzle when half the pieces are missing and it doesn't make sense, and still have the faith that over time the missing pieces will show up and something beautiful will emerge. Most people panic without clarity. They say, oh, show me a roadmap, give me a job description, give me an SOP, show me the guarantee. If you want guarantees, creativity is probably not for you. Go buy a toaster. I mean, toasters and air conditioners come with guarantees. Creativity does not. But here's the problem. If the road is truly new, no one can show you exactly where it goes or where it will lead to. The German social psychologist Erich Fromm once said, creativity requires the courage to let go of certainties. I repeat, creativity requires the courage to let go of certainties. That's the thing we need to remember, my friends. Creative people don't need everything nailed down perfectly in the beginning. They can live in the maybe, the not yet, we'll see, we'll come to it, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, and still move forward. That muscle, that creative muscle, is something we should all think about developing. Think about your own life. Some of your most creative solutions probably came when things were messy and unclear. What I'm doing today in my current role as a motivational speaker, a leadership coach, and content producer for YouTube, I didn't have it figured out when I started. I figured it out along the way, but I knew something good will emerge. I had some of the pieces of the puzzle, but I moved forward anyway. Best things emerge not when everything is perfectly planned, but when things are messy and unclear. If you continue moving forward, clarity emerges ultimately. Let me share another example with you. Type in a yes if you use Canva for designing things. And here's what happens if you go onto Canva. If you type in the exact thing what you need, say for example, I need a YouTube thumbnail, and I type in motivational thumbnail, I'll get very predictable, cliche designs. But if I type in just thumbnail, or even magazine covers or something like that, and scroll without panicking, part of my logical brain would say, oh, this is not a thumbnail, it's a magazine cover. But you know what somebody who has a creative bent of mind will say? It's okay, let's look at how travel vlogs and tech reviews and beauty channels go, and one out of the so many will be perfect for you, right? So but it won't be ready-made. So what you will do is you will go and tweak it, you will change it, and that's where most people give up, because most people would just go to a predictable search, they will not find it, and they'll say, no, Canva doesn't have what I need. What they need is a creative muscle, the ability to sit in the discomfort of, this doesn't exactly match my expectations, but I can make it work. When you start saying that, that's when your creativity wakes up. You begin to tweak, you change colors, you change fonts, you mix elements, and suddenly you have something beautiful and fresh. Not from something predictable, but something completely different from what you originally anticipated. In 1928, microbiologist Alexander Fleming returned from vacation and noticed one of his petri dishes had a strange mold on it. Most scientists, most folks would have just thrown it out. You know, it's a mold, throw it out. He didn't. He got curious and he dig deeper into this experiment. And that mold, my friends, Penicillium notatum, turned out to be killing the surrounding bacteria, and that gave birth to penicillin, the world's first true antibiotic, which has since saved millions of lives. If Fleming had thought on traditional linear lines, we might have waited for decades before antibiotics emerged. So we should all train ourselves in this ability to sit with incomplete ideas. Learn to sit with incomplete ideas. Don't force them to be perfect on day one. Keep a maybe journal. This is a very good thing. Keep an idea journal where a lot of maybe ideas are there, which are half-formed, odd ideas. No pressure. They might never work out. But you have a list and you never know which one will suddenly blossom and come to the front. When someone asks, oh, that's a great idea, but how will this work? Develop the courage to say, I don't know it yet, but we can find out. We can find out together. You see, machines need full data, clear prompts, clear patterns to function. Human beings, we can operate in the in-between, in the fog. That, my friends, is our creative edge. Learn to live in the fog and the uncertainty. That was step number 4. Skills of the future, building creative confidence. Tip number 5 is building rhino skin. That's right, building rhino thick skin. You see, most ideas don't die because they're bad. They die because we never dare to voice them. Two big hurdles kill creative ideas. One is your inner critic. That imposter syndrome says, who are you to say this? Don't embarrass yourself in front of the others. There's more experienced people around. What if they laugh? What if they reject your ideas? And second is other people's opinion. You're constantly running this in your head. What will they think? Will they laugh at it? And will it win their approval, etc.? If your ideas never leave your mouth, my friends, or your brain or your neural network, or if you don't pen them down or write them down or speak up when it's required, they never leave your head. They are dead for all that we care about them. There's no good use we can put them to. The world will never get to see what your idea could do. So, and also, you need to build that self-belief, because if you don't believe in your creative ideas, no matter how crazy they are, chances are very slim that someone else will. You are the brand ambassador of your ideas, so you need to believe in that. It's like keeping a masterpiece, owning a masterpiece or painting a masterpiece and then locking it in a cupboard, or writing a great book and then never publishing it for the fear of criticism or ridicule. There's a line often attributed to Mahatma Gandhi which goes something like this. First, they ignore you. Then they laugh at you. Then they fight you, and then you win. Nearly every breakthrough idea in history has gone through that cycle. The Wright brothers, laughed at. Einstein's theories, ridiculed at first. The first iPhone, many experts called it a toy. If people are laughing at your idea, it's a good thing. It might just mean that you're ahead of the curve. It's good for their emotional health. They're laughing at something. It's good for you, because if they're laughing at your idea, that means you are doing something unconventional. You're doing something brand new. You see, years ago, I was part of the pre-opening team at the Grand Hyatt Hotel in Dubai. I was surrounded by experienced hotel professionals who had decades of global experience. I was relatively new. I had good ideas, a lot of them. But in those early meetings, I stayed quiet. I told myself, let the seniors talk. What if they laugh? What if I say something stupid and embarrass myself? And looking back today, I realized my silence wasn't humility, it was fear. Over time, I learned that silence doesn't serve your creativity, because ideas need air. Today, I'm telling you what I wish someone had told me back then. What people think of you and your ideas is their business. Expressing your ideas with conviction and belief is your business. I repeat, what people think of you and your ideas is their business, and expressing your ideas with conviction and clarity, that is your business. So, my friends, let's do a quick recap of what I've shared with you so far. Number one, think divergently. Don't hunt for the one good idea, flood the field with many. Remember, air conditioning didn't start as comfort or cooling a room. It started as solving a humidity problem in a printing plant in Brooklyn. Number two, ask better questions. Don't let "we've always done it this way" become your prison. Ask why not, what if, why not now? You see, city of Chicago didn't ask how do we survive the swamp. They asked, why not lift the entire city? Number three, hang out with the weird, step outside your bubble, learn from fast food and eye hospitals and farmers and coders and teachers. Dr. V, remember earlier in the video I talked about him, looked at McDonald's systems and transformed cataract surgery forever. Number four, embrace ambiguity. Don't demand full clarity at the start. I gave you the example of me starting my international speaking career. I didn't demand full clarity at the start. Great ideas have a gestation period, have patience. Fleming's messy petri dish gave us penicillin, and that's how great things emerge. Number five, grow rhino skin. Your inner critic and other people's laughter are just background noise. Keep sharing, keep trying, keep thinking. Creativity is a muscle that grows with use, not with hiding or retreating back into your shell. And since you've stayed with me all the way towards the end in this video, I'm going to give you a bonus for all of you who are still here. Bonus point is partner with artificial intelligence, but lead with human creativity. I repeat, partner with AI, but lead with human creativity. So you have all these powerful AI tools at your fingertips now. AI writers, image generators, code assistants, video and audio generators. They can help you brainstorm, draft the first email, or draft the first chapter of your book, or summarize or prototype in minutes, or write you a script or a social media post. Does that mean now they are the creative ones? No, I don't see it that way. I still believe you are the creative one. You are in charge. Think of AI as a very fast, obedient junior assistant who can throw tons of ideas at you all day. But the discernment of deciding what fits your context, your values, your audience, your brand, all of that is still your job. AI can give you 50 options. You might just choose one or two that truly resonate, adapt them, tweak them, or sometimes throw away all the 50 saying, this is not us. This is not in harmony with our values or our vision or our culture or our ethos. That discernment is your job and my job. You see, as tech keeps evolving, we will all need to upgrade our creative judgment as editors of figuring out what is relevant, what is original enough, what aligns with our values and voice, what will actually help people. So by all means, my friends, use AI to augment and speed up your creative thinking, your idea generation, or filtering out ideas, or whatever other help you need. Use it to stretch your imagination and explore possibilities. But remember, creativity is human responsibility. Tools assist you, but you decide. And those decisions impact the lives of so many people. So do not blindly rely on these tools. They're here to assist you. You still are the decision maker. So have the courage to be a little weird, a little brave, be patient with the fog, laugh with the others when they laugh at you, because every time you do that, you are strengthening the most important muscle of the future, which is your creativity. Now, go out and create something that did not exist yesterday. And thanks for tuning in.